explain the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics and macroeconomics are two different but related branches of economics. Following are the difference between a microeconomic and macroeconomic. Yeah, and the first is microeconomic. Focus on the individual perspective at the consumer level. And number two, implement supply and demand based on buyer seller trends. And the second is macroeconomics. Number one, focus and general perspective at the national level. And number two, application of various economic cycles such as long and short-term debt cycles.
The difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic is one scope, while microeconomic focus on the individual perspective at the consumer level. Macroeconomic seeks to find a general perspective at the national level. Two objectives. If from macroeconomic, it is to understand the behavior of consumers and companies in making economic decisions, as well as determining the price and quantity of goods and service trade. Meanwhile, for macroeconomic is to understand and analyze changes in the economy as a whole, such as inflation, price level of economic growth. 3. Theory. Macroeconomic theory discuss price theory, production theory, and market theory, while macroeconomic theory discuss fiscal and monetary policy and the relationship between the economy and other factors. For example of microeconomic activities are buying and selling work, and so on, while macroeconomic activities are government fiscal and monetary policies.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ariandini Rahmawati Putri, and here I will explain some of the difference between microeconomies and macroeconomies. The first, microeconomy studies individual units, while macroeconomy studies the meaning of the country's economy and its various aggregates. The second, microeconomists help to show how balance can be achieved on a small scale, whereas macroeconomists help determine the level of balance of employment and income of the country. The third, microeconomists take into account factors such as the demand and supply of certain commodities, while macroeconomists takes into account the aggregate demand and supply of a country's economy. And I think enough. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will explain about the difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic. Microeconomic focus on individual economy units such as household, firm, and markets. It examines the behavior and decision making of the units, as well as how their interaction influence resource allocation and price. Microeconomic deals with topics like supply and demand, production and cost, market structure, and individual consumer choice. On the other hand, macroeconomic look at the overall behavior and performance of an entire economy. It studies aggregate variables such as national income, employment, inflation, economic growth, and government policy. Macroeconomic aims to understand and analyze the factors that impact the economy as a whole, including issues like monetary and fiscal policy, inflation rates, economic fluctuation, and internal trade. So, in the summary, microeconomic focus on the individual economic units and their interaction within specific market, while macroeconomic examines the overall behavior and performance of the entire economy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
This is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. 1. Scope. Microeconomics focus on the individual perspective at the consumer level, while macroeconomics seeks to find a general perspective at the national level. Meanwhile, the scope of macroeconomics is much broader and general in nature, such as fiscal and monetary policies, while the scope of microeconomics is more specific, such as household and companies. 2. Goals. The goals of microeconomics is to understand the behavior and of consumers and companies in making economic decisions, as well as determining the price and quantities of goods and services traded. Meanwhile, the aim of macroeconomics is to understand and analyze changes in the economy as a whole, such as inflation, price levels, economic growth rates, national income, gross domestic product, or GDP, and change in unemployment. 3. Theory. Microeconomics theory discusses price theory, production theory, and market theory. Meanwhile, macroeconomics theory discusses fiscal and monetary policies, as well as the relationship between the economy and other factors such as political, social, and environmental.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hi, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ana Syafitri. You can call me Ana. I'm from Islamic Economics Study Program from class 2023I. In this video, I will explain about the difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic. Difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic theories economy. Analysis in microeconomic theory generally includes small part of overall economic activity, and macroeconomic theory analysis are the activity of a consumer, a company, or a market. Analysis in macroeconomic theory more global or more comprehensive in nature. In macroeconomic, then, that needs to be considered is a consumer action overall. Overall activities, entrepreneur, and change overall economic activity. Microeconomic focus more on analysis of the problem of making choice for realizing efficiency in use, resource, activities, maximum satisfaction. Analysts in macroeconomic explain about what are the aspects of demand and supply, determine the level of activity in economy, the main problem that are always face every economy. Economic policy and interference government to solve the problem the economy is facing.
Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, I'm Muhammad Taki Fauzan from Islamic Economics. Now I will explain difference macroeconomics and microeconomics. First, I will explain about macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that deals with the performance, structure, behavior, and decision making of an economy as a whole. Microeconomics is a branch of mainstream economics that studies the behavior of individuals and firms in making decisions regarding the allocation of scarce resources and the interaction among these individuals and firms. And between microeconomics and macroeconomics is microeconomics is a study of how individuals and companies make decisions to allocate scarce resources, and macroeconomics is study of an economy as a whole. Microeconomics focus on supply and demand and other forces that determine price level, make it a bottom approach. And macroeconomics takes a top-down approach and looks at the economy as a whole. Maybe that's explanation from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Andrian Dwi Rahmat Firdaus from 2023 International Class from Study Program Islamic Economics. And today I will explain about what is the difference about microeconomics and macroeconomics. And the first difference is microeconomics is a study about one company or one individual or individuals. Nah, and macroeconomics is a study about economics in country or in a nation. And the second difference is microeconomics is study about a goods price and or a service. And the macroeconomics is study about inflation, about national income, about GDP, and many all. And so that's that's this explanation about different of microeconomics and macroeconomics from me, from Andrian Turam Firdaus, and thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Irfan Hanifaruddin from 23I. Today I will explain about the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics and macroeconomics are two branches of economics that complement each other. Microeconomics focus on individual and business decisions, while macroeconomics looks at the decision of country and governments. Microeconomics studies individual income, output, price of goods, and specific segment and markets of an economy, while macroeconomics studies employment, gross domestic product, and inflation. Both microeconomics and macroeconomics are necessary for individual and large-scale decision making. That's it for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Faradila. I am from the Islamic Economic Study Program class 2023I. In here, I will explain the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics studies economics at the level of individual or small units such as firms, consumers, or specific markets. The goal is to analyze the behavior of individual economics agents and how they make decisions regarding production, consumption, price, and resource allocation. The topics are usually the demand and supply of a particular product, price theory, company pricing policy, consumer behavior. Macroeconomics study the economy as a whole, include major elements such as national output, inflation, and monetary policy. The aim to the aim is to identify factors that influence national economic growth, price stability, and unemployment levels in a country. The topics are gross domestic product, inflation, fiscal and monetary policy, trade balance. So, microeconomics focus on the level of analysis of individuals or small units with the economy, while macroeconomics looks at the overall economic picture of a country or region.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Putri Nur Febrianti from Islamic Economic Class 2023I. Here I will explain the difference between micro and macroeconomics. One of the things that distinguishes between microeconomy and macroeconomy is the form of each analysis made. Analysis in microeconomy theory generally only cover a small part of all economic activities, such as analyzing the activities of consumers, companies, households, or markets, while the analysis in macroeconomy theory is more comprehensive or global. In microeconomy, what is considered is the overall action of consumer, the overall activities of entrepreneur, and overall change in economic activities. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ekis23'I. I'm from the Islamic Economic Study program. Here I will explain a bit about difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics. First, in terms of scope, microeconomics focus on individual consumers such as households and firms, while macroeconomics is much broader and generalized, such as fiscal and monetary policies. Second, the purpose of macroeconomics is to understand the behavior of consumers and firms in making economic decisions, as well as determining the price and quantity of goods and services traded, while the purpose of macroeconomics is to understand and analyze changes in the economy as a whole, such inflation, price level, economic growth rates, national income, and change in unemployment. Third theory, macroeconomic theory discusses price theory, production theory, and market theory, while macroeconomic theory discusses fiscal and monetary policy, as well as the relationship between the economy and other factors such as political, social, and environmental. That's all I can say. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Introducing my name Mailania Maya Sanova from the class of Islamic Economic 2023I. Here I will talk about the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. The first, in terms of scope, microeconomic focus attention on individual, households, firms, or small market. It includes an analysis of how prices, demand, supply, and consumer and producer behavior affect the small economic entities. Macroeconomics examines the economy as whole or at the national level. It covers aspects such as economic growth, inflation, unemployment, trade balance, and fiscal and monetary policies that affect the entire economy of a country. While by purpose, microeconomics aims to understand how individuals and firms make economic decisions as well as how they interact in the market. And macroeconomics aims to understand major economic phenomena such as economic growth, price stability, and employment on a national or global scale. While microeconomics and macroeconomics have different focus, they are interrelated and influence each other in the context of the wider economy. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi
From
wabarakatuh.
class 2023I, Islamic Economic, I will explain the meaning first. Microeconomic is economics that studies the economic activities of producer and consumer in determining the quantity, price, and allocation of production resources. Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that studies the economy as a whole, including performance, behavior, and decision-making processes. One of the differences is macroeconomics theory discusses price theory, production theory, and market theory. Meanwhile, macroeconomics theory discusses fiscal and monetary policies and will as the relationship between the economy and other factors such as political, social, and environmental.
Difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic. Microeconomic focus on the behavior and decision making of individual economic agents such as household, firms, and consumer. It examines how these agents allocate their resources, make choices, and interact in specific market. Microeconomic analyze topics such as supply and demand, price determination, consumer behavior, production cost, and market structure. On the other hand, macroeconomic look at the broader picture of the economic as a whole. It study a great economic variable such as national income, unemployment rate, inflation, and economic growth. Macroeconomic aims to and the overall function of the economic and the factors that influence such as fiscal and monetary policy, international trade, and government intervention. In summary, microeconomic focus on individual economic unit and their interaction within specific market, while macroeconomic examines the overall behavior and performance of the entire economy.
Micro and macroeconomics are two basic types of classification within the category of scope in economics. As the name suggests, micro is synonymous with small things and conversely macro is identified with big things. Microeconomic theory discusses price theory, production theory, and market theory, while macroeconomics discusses fiscal and monetary policy, as well as the relationship between the economy and other factors such as political, social, and environmental. Macroeconomic studies factors such as economic growth, inflation, unemployment, and government policies. On the other hand, microeconomics analyzes demand, supply, and decisions of consumers and companies.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Perkenalan. I am from Islamic Economic Program Studies. I will explain about the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is an economic science that discusses economic activities such as the behavior of producer and consumer and anything. And macroeconomics is an economic science that studies the economics as a whole. The difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics are 1. Microeconomics involves various theories such as distribution, price, and product. Meanwhile, macroeconomics focus on output, income, the possibility of deflation and inflation, and other. And 2. Macroeconomics applies analysis of ways to allocate resources. Meanwhile, microeconomics is involved in economic activities in the international and national scope. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Angelo Zauki Raful Priyambodo, Economy Islam 2023 International Class. I will explain the difference between macroeconomic and microeconomic. The first is macroeconomic, to learn about, analyze the economy as a whole, studies aggregate economic behavior, deals with the economic issue that affect the entire economy and most of society. Studies aggregate variables such as aggregate demand, aggregate supply. Next, the second is a microeconomic that study about, analyze the individual component of the economy, studies economic behavior of an individual unit and market for particular goods, deals with the decision making of a certain firm or a certain household, studies such a variable as the amount of a firm's output or of a consumer income. So, that's all for today. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Jandal Alfiansyah. Now I will explain about differences between microeconomic and macroeconomic. In the meaning, microeconomic is a science that studies economic activities and individual economic units, namely individual as consumer, as owner of production factors, and as producer. Meanwhile, macroeconomics is a science that studies the economy as a whole or aggregate. The aggregate context referred to in macroeconomic refers to total variables such as total income, total production, savings, investment, and so on. In the price aspect, the difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic lies in the price aspect. In microeconomics, that price referred to is the price of a particular commodity. Meanwhile, the price context in macroeconomic is the overall price level. In purpose of analysis, microeconomic is aimed at prioritizing the search for problem solving, such as how to allocate resources to achieve the right combination. Meanwhile, macroeconomics analyses more the influence of economic activities on the economic in aggregate or as a whole. In economic units, microeconomics theory only discusses the behavior of certain economic actors, for example, producer and consumer households. Meanwhile, macroeconomic theory analyzes economic activities and the overall of national level. In conclusion, the difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic lies in the scope, meaning price aspect, analysis, objective, and economic units. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fatia Alfi Farhani from the international class of 2023. Here I will explain the difference microeconomics and macroeconomics. So the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics lies in the scope. Microeconomics focus on individual perspective at the consumer level, for example, in determining price and quantity of goods and service trade. Whereas the macroeconomic focus is on the common perspective at the national level, for example, in analyzing information, rates, and...
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rafif Irsyad Herullah from the Islamic Economics Study Program with the name 23081194236. Here, I will explain the difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic. So, basically, every economics interprets economic in the same way from one economic to another. There are the three key elements to understanding the economy: scarcity, prosperity, and satisfaction. The difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic is that in microeconomic focus more on analysis and achievement efficient use of resources and ensuring that households, business or industrial sector can achieve optimal satisfaction. On that basis, the economic sector analysis existing problem by making different choice. Apart from that, the difference that we can see in macroeconomic is that first, this science looks more deeply at the roles of supply and demand in functioning of the economy. Second, macroeconomic analysis problem that often arise in all economy. Finally, macroeconomy will examine the role and intervention of the governments in overcoming this economic problem. I think that's the big difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic. That is all, and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Sabri Siva Ramadhani from Islamic Economic Study Program from class 2023I. Here, I will explain the difference between micro and macroeconomic. Microeconomics studies the behavior of every individual, consumer, worker, investor, landowner, and company owner, who is also known as an economic agent. In this science, it is also explained how each economic agent make a choice and the effect of his choice on change in prices or income. Meanwhile, in macroeconomic, we will study the behavior of a group of economic agents as a whole. Macroeconomics seeks to find general perspective at the national level, while microeconomics focus on individual perspective at the consumer level. Okay, if there are mistakes in pronunciation, I apologize. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First, my name is Nurul Allah Agustin. I'm from Islamic Economic Study Program 2023I class. And now I'm going to explain just a little bit some micro and macroeconomic. And first, microeconomic cover a general public or citizen marketing, such as consumer behavior theory, demand and supply, market balance, elasticity, production and market costs. And macroeconomic cover a country, such as national income, economic growth and development, inflation and price index, monetary and fiscal policy, APBN or state budget, and tax. Just that. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Faik Fatuliknia. You can call me Faik. And my program study is Islamic Economy 2023E. I will explain the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is an economic study that tends to be on a small scale so that it focuses on the motives and action of economic actors. Meanwhile, macroeconomic is an economic study that discusses general phenomena so that it is broader in scope and generally looks for solution. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello friends, let me introduce myself. My name is Dwi Hasnah Zahra and I'm from Islamic Economic 2023. Here I will explain the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Micro and macroeconomics focus on the same elements but have different points of view. The following are the main differences between micro and macroeconomics. Macroeconomics provides an attempt to find a general perspective at the national level, while microeconomics focuses on the individual perspective at the consumer level. Supply and demand apply to both micro and macroeconomics, but microeconomics focus on the trends of buyers and sellers. Meanwhile, macroeconomics focus on economic cycles, such as long-term and short-term debt cycles, as well as business cycles. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, my name is Noiza Tunisa. I'm from Islamic Economic Program Class 2023I. Now I'm gonna explain you the differences between macroeconomics and microeconomics. But first, I'm gonna explain you the macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that studies how an overall economy, the markets, businesses, consumers, and the governments behave. Macroeconomics examines economy-wide phenomena such as inflation, price levels, rate of economic growth, national income, gross domestic product or GDP, and changes in unemployment. The second, I'm gonna explain you the microeconomics. Microeconomics studies the decisions of individuals and firms to allocate resources of production, exchange, and consumption. Microeconomics deals with prices and production in single markets and the interaction between different markets, but leaves the study of economy what aggregates to macroeconomics. Now I'm gonna explain you the differences between macroeconomics and microeconomics. Macroeconomics differs from microeconomics, which focus on smaller factors that affect choices made by individuals and companies. Factors studied in both microeconomics and macroeconomics typically influence one another. A key distinction between micro and macroeconomics is that macroeconomic aggregates can sometimes behave in very different ways or even the opposite of similar microeconomic variables. That's all my explanation. Thank you for your attention.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ekis23'I Husna. I'm from Islamic Economic 2023. In this video, I will explain the differences between microeconomic and macroeconomic. In basic differences, macroeconomic studies the behavior of every individual, consumer, worker, investor, landowner, and company owner, who is also known as an economic agent, and also explain how each economic agent makes a choice and the influence of their choice on change in prices or income. While in macroeconomic, we will study the behavior of a group of economic agents as a whole and if seen from another point of view. Macroeconomics seeks to find a general perspective at the national level, while microeconomic focuses on individual perspective at the
My name is Farisul Maska. From the Islamic Economic Study Program, I want to explain the difference between micro and macroeconomics. Microeconomics studies the behavior of every individual, consumer, worker, investor, landowner, and company owner, who is also known as an economic agent. Meanwhile, in macroeconomics, we will study the behavior of a set of economic agents as a whole. Maybe that's all for me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello everyone. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Trio Tomo from the Islamic Economic Study Program class of 2023 International. Here, I will explain the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. But before distinguishing these two things, we must first know what microeconomics and macroeconomics are. Okay. Microeconomics is simple a branch of economics that focus on analyzing the behavior and decision of individuals, firms, and small consumers in economic decision making. Meanwhile, macroeconomics is simple a branch of economics that focus on analyzing the economy as a whole. It includes research on the economic performance and stability of a country or region. Now, what is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics? Here, I will explain the three different factors of microeconomics and macroeconomics. First, scope of analysis. Microeconomics deals with the behavior and decision-making of individual economics actors, such as consumers, firms, and workers. In addition, microeconomics explores questions such as how consumers make choice, how firms set price, and how supply and demand affect market outcomes. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, looks at the economy as a whole. It studies aggregate economic variables such as national income, inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. Second, units of analysis. In microeconomics, the units of analysis are individual economic agents or small group of economic agents. Macroeconomic deals with large-scale economic variables that encompass the entire economy. It considers variables like GDP or gross domestic product, CPI or consumer price index, and the overall level of employment in the country. Third, key questions. Microeconomics addresses questions relate to resource allocation, individuals' choice, and market interactions. Some common questions in microeconomics include how do consumers decide what to buy? How do firms determine their price and output levels? What factors influence the supply and demand for specific goods and services? Macroeconomics focus on questions related to the overall performance of the economy. Typical macroeconomic questions include what causes inflation and how can it be controlled, how does government policy affect economic growth and employment, what are the causes and consequences of recession and economy booms. Well, that was an explanation and the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Maybe that's all I can say. Hopefully it's useful for all. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I'm Safa Regina from Islamic Economics Study Program from class 2023I. Now I will explain about the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics. But first I will give the little explanation about macroeconomics and microeconomics. Macroeconomics is a part of economy which learns about how the whole economy works, while microeconomics is a part of economy which learns specifically about economy activities from the manufacturer and the consumer in deciding quantity, quality, also the goods or services price. The difference of macroeconomics and microeconomics is microeconomics studies economics from the individual, group, or company's level, while macroeconomics studies economics as a whole in the national level. Microeconomics involves various theories such as distribution, price, and product, while macroeconomics focuses on output, income, the possibility of deflation and inflation, and others. Microeconomics focuses on issues related to individuals or companies, while macroeconomics provides an effort to find a common perspective at the national level. So that's some explanation from me. Hope it helps. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Zainur Raif, and in this video I will explain about the macroeconomics and microeconomics. But I will explain the macroeconomics and microeconomics in three aspects. The first aspect is based on scope. Microeconomics focuses on the individual perspective in consumer level, while the macroeconomics seeks to find general perspective in national level. Meanwhile, the scope macroeconomics is much broader and general, such as fiscal and monetary policy. And while the scope microeconomics is more specific, such as household and companies. The second aspect, based on goals, the microeconomics is to understand consumer and companies in making economic decisions, as well as determining price and quantity of goods and services traded. And meanwhile, the macroeconomics is to understand and analyze overall economic change, such as inflation, price levels, unemployment, economic growth rates. And the last aspect, based on the theory, microeconomic theory discusses price theory, product theory, and market theory. Meanwhile, macroeconomic theory discusses fiscal and monetary policy, as well as the relationship between economic and other factors such political, social, and environmental. Maybe that's all from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi
I'm
wabarakatuh.
Farazaki Rahman Rainak MM from Islamic Economics class 2023E. I want to explain to you what difference between microeconomic and macroeconomics. Definition of macro and microeconomics. Macroeconomics or macroeconomic is the study of the economy as a whole. Macroeconomic describe economic change that affect many societies, companies, and markets. Microeconomic is a science that studies the economic activities of produce and consumer in determining in quantity, quality, and price of goods or services on the market. The difference between the two is microeconomic focus more on individual aspects of the economy such as consumer decisions, production costs, and competition in the marketplace. Meanwhile, macroeconomic focus more on aggregate aspects of the economy such as total output, gross domestic product (GDP), unemployment rate, inflation, and government policies that affect the entire economy. Microeconomics discusses large of broad scope such as countries, while macroeconomics discuss a smaller or narrow scope such as individual. Both branches of economics are important in understanding the economy as a whole, and often information and findings from microeconomics are used to support macroeconomic analysis and vice versa. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anini Rizky. I am from 2023 class A, and I will explain the difference between microeconomy and macroeconomics. The microeconomics and macroeconomics are the follows. Number one, unit of analysis. Microeconomics focused on analyzing individual or economic units such as household, firms, or specific market. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, analyze the economy at an overall level such of the economy on a country or region. Number two is scale. Microeconomics examines the action of individual or small group, while microeconomics look at economic phenomena on a large scale. The number three is objective. Microeconomics aim to analyze individual decision and behavior on their impact on resource allocation. And macroeconomics, on the other hand, aims to understand the factors that affect the economy as a whole, such as economic growth, inflation, and unemployment. And the last is variable analysis. Microeconomic analysis economic variables such as price, demand, supply, profit, and production level. Meanwhile, macroeconomics analyze economic variables such as gross domestic product, inflation, unemployment, investment, and interest rate. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sharif Hidayatullah. In here, I will explain the difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic. Number one, microeconomic. Microeconomics studying its impact on goods and services. Number two, use microdata such as customer data and company data. And last, to understand how individual and small units make economic decisions and how these decisions affect markets. To macroeconomic, number one is studying economic growth, national income, inflation, and age. Number two, use macro data such as unemployment rate data and economic growth data. And the last unit make echo the main goal of macroeconomics is to understand overall economic condition and how interaction between all economic elements if influence each other. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Amanda Tori Kemal Habib Alarif, and I am an economic student. Here I will explain the difference about micro and macroeconomics. Firstly, I want to explain microeconomy. In the microeconomy, we have studied in there we have studied economic activities in their producer and consumer in the determining quantity and quality. And don't forget, we can call in the microeconomics is small scales. Okay, and the second I want to explain to you about macroeconomics. In macroeconomics, we have study market system and a large scale. Okay, thanks. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Angelina Al-Radifa from the Islamic Economics Study Program. Here I will present an assignment explaining the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is a study that questions individual economics units only, while macroeconomics itself is a science economy as a whole. So many presentation from me. Thank you. See you.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, let me introduce. My name is Mia Deni from Faculty Economics and Business, new student 2023. So here I will explain the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics. According to its definition, microeconomics is a science that study the decision of individuals and company to allocate production, exchange, and consuming resource. Meanwhile, macroeconomics is the science that study the economy as a whole. The difference between macro and microeconomics can be seen from the first risk aspect. For microeconomics, where the price of a particular commodity is certain. Microeconomics price is the value of commodity in aggregate or as a whole. Second, economics unit cover macro, namely discussion of individual economic activities such as supply and demand, customer behavior, market and company profit and loss. Macroeconomic itself discussion activities as a whole. Third, the purpose of analysis. The focus of macroeconomics is more on the analysis of how to allocate resources so that they can be achieved. The macroeconomic focus more on the analysis from the influence of economic activities, for example, inflation, export and import, a country unemployment rate, import, a country, for example, inflation, export and import, a country unemployment rate. The purpose of macro and microeconomic is always to weigh allocate resources to the description macro and microeconomic difference from me. And thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Safia Maida Ulia. I'm from International Islamic Economic Class 2023. Difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic. 1. Discussion. Microeconomics studies the economic behavior of individuals such as consumers, companies, or specific markets. Macroeconomics studies the economy as a whole, including major economic variables such as economic growth, inflation, decline, and government policy. 2. Focus. Microeconomic focus on the decisions of individuals or small entities such as production, consumption, price, and resource allocation. Macroeconomic focus on economic phenomena that affect an entire society or country, such as monetary policy, fiscal policy, and the level of societal welfare. 3. Analysis example. Microeconomic examines how changes in the fuel price affect an individual's decision to purchase a car. Macroeconomic studying the impact of the global financial crisis on property levels and economic growth across countries. 4. Objective. Microeconomics helps individuals and companies make better economic decisions. Macroeconomic provides insight into the economic health of a country and assists the government in deciding appropriate economic policies. An understanding of these two types of analysis is important for understanding how economies operate at different scales.
My name is Tri Utami, NIM 230811942. Study Program Economy Islam Class 2023I. Macroeconomic and microeconomic theory. Macroeconomic theory is an economic theory that examines the relationship or behavior of large economic variables such as gross domestic product, money demand, inflation, employment opportunities, and so on. Microeconomic theory is an economic theory that examines the relationship or behavior or individual economic variable. The difference between macroeconomic and microeconomics can be seen from three aspects, namely the concept of branch, scope, and objectives of analysis. 1. Branch concept. The understanding of a commodity itself is a product or service that is bought and bought that has a real physical so that it can be bought and bought over a long term. In macroeconomics, something that can be traded has a larger index because it influences fluctuations. Meanwhile, microeconomic is inversely proportional because what is usually sold includes daily needs such as clothing and food. Second, scope. Macroeconomic covers a large scope and affects the wider society and the country. These include fiscal policy, monetary policy, supply side policy. Meanwhile, microeconomic covers a smaller and more detailed scope than macroeconomic. Among them, price theory, production theory, and distribution theory. The third is the purpose of analysis. Macroeconomic. 1. The influence of economic variables on national income. 2. The impact inflation on unemployment, interest rates, and investment. Inflation will also have an impact on the inflation. The lower the selling value of companies share. Microeconomic conduct an analysis of the market makes aims that from relative prices to product of goods and services, as well as the allocation of limited resources among many alternative uses. Conduct a market failure analysis, that is when the market fails to produce efficient outcomes, and explain the various theoretical conditions that are required for a market with perfect competition.
Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Ladip Dalanis Ibrahim. I came from class International Islamic Economic 2023I. Today I will tell you difference between micro and macroeconomic. Micro and macroeconomic are two different levels of analysis in economics. First, microeconomic. Microeconomic is focused on individual economic units such as firms or consumers. 2. Examining individual behavior in making economic decisions such as product price, product quantities, and consumer decisions. 3. Study individual markets and how the interaction between supply and demand affects the price and quantity of good or service. 4. Focus on questions such as how companies price their product, how consumers make purchasing decisions. And now, macroeconomic. Macroeconomic is focus on the economy as whole or aggregate level. Investigate variables such as inflation rates, unemployment, economic growth, and overall interest rates. Study macroeconomic policies such as monetary and fiscal policy that influence a country's overall level of economic activity. Focus on big questions such as what impact government policies have on the national unemployment rate, or how a country can achieve sustainable economic growth. So the main difference between macro and macroeconomic is the level of analysis. Microeconomics focus on individual economic units, while macroeconomic focus on economics as a whole.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Kansa Adla Shafa with student identification number 23081941127. I come from the International Class Islamic Economic Study Program. Here, I will explain the difference between microeconomic and macroeconomic to fulfill the task of introductory economic theory. Micro and macroeconomic are two branches of economics that study how the economy works. However, they have different focuses and approaches. Microeconomics studies the behavior of individuals and firms in market, covering topics such as supply and demand, production, perfectly competitive markets, and monopolies. Macroeconomic, on the other hand, studies the performance of the economy as a whole, covering topics such as economic growth, inflation, unemployment, and international trade. Microeconomics also studies how governments can use policies to influence the market, such as taxes, subsidies, and regulation. Microeconomic, on the other hand, studies how factors such as government policies, customer behavior, and global economic conditions can affect the economics as a whole. Broadly speaking, the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics is that in terms of focus, microeconomic focuses on the behavior of individuals and firms, while macroeconomics focuses on overall economic performance. Then, in terms of coverage, macroeconomic covers individual market, while macroeconomics covers the economic as a whole. Then, example of economics in microeconomics are demand and supply, production, perfectly competitive market, monopolies, while in macroeconomic are economic growth, inflation, unemployment, and international trade. Then, the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics in terms of goals. Microeconomics has the goal of understanding how markets work, while macroeconomic has the goal of how the economic works. That's all the explanation for me. For more or less, I apologize. Thank you.